Good morning, and welcome to my presentation titled RomeFlex, Sogno Platform in Action. My name is Antonello Monti. I'm professor at RWTH Aachen University in Germany, and also I'm a scientist at Fraunhofer FIT. And I prepared this presentation together with our research partner, Areti, the grid operator in the city of Rome, particularly the research coordinator, Ercole De Luca, that have been working with me in the last few years. In relation to the Sogno project. So what I will do, I will first give you a short introduction, what Sogno is about, a little bit of history, if you may say so, about Sogno. Then I will talk about the implementation in Rome, which is the first use of the Sogno project, which is a project in the LFE now, in the real life, so not anymore a research, but as a commercial implementation. And the nice thing is, as usual, when you have the first mover, then you have consequences. And I have two more examples of practical evolution that are results of this first positive experience in Rome. So first a little bit about Sogno and why was Sogno developed. So Sogno started as a part of a research project with the same name that was funded by the European Commission. And the target of that project started with the idea that I think I mentioned already this morning in the panel, I mean, the role of distribution system operator has been dramatically changing in the last few years because the large number of distributed assets that are connected to the low and medium voltage. And those assets are a resource for the grid operators and represent also a source of data. Distribution grids historically were kind of passive infrastructure that didn't need a lot of automation and intelligence, but because of renewables are becoming actually the core where the generation is happening. That's why in the panel this morning I say we have a top-down system that is becoming bottom-up. And it's exactly to support this bottom-up that realize their need of new concept and new ideas. So we proposed in the project originally the creation of a platform, which is a microservice-based platform, in which the idea was that exactly because we are dealing with a world under evolution, the distribution system operation, it's something that needs continuously to adapt over time. Historically, platform for automation in power system being developed as a monolithic system because they were quite stable. Services were always the same, the kind of requirements very similar, but in a very dynamic world, we thought we need to modularize things so that we can always add new use cases, we can quickly adapt without revolutionizing everything. So in the original EU project, which had the same name, Sogno, we started with this concept in which we say, okay, we need a communication layer down here, and we have to be able to work across different carriers. Then we want to be able to support key data models and key standards. So we don't want to reinvent the wheel. So for example, it's critical for us to use a common information model as a way to build the data model. And then on top, so that allows us to create a message broker. And over the message broker, we can plug in services. And we start with services like state estimation, fault location, optimal power flow. But then this set of services is and has been evolving over time, depending on projects we have been involved in or requirements coming from the application. And then, of course, critical is to build this in a way that can be added into a broader ecosystem. And that's what was the evolution and that we had in the next few years after the first project. That allow us in a way to develop a vision. So behind Sogno there is a vision that has been valid now for a few years. First statement already say the role of DSO is changing, and then the service. The second is that means the monolithic solution are not able to cope with this development. What's been really good in relation to the second point, I was this spring in Dortmund, there was a meeting organized by the German Association, the VDE, talking about how to go about automation of distribution grid. and every single presenter said this point. The monolithic solutions for distribution grids do not work. And so that was a good signal, and the other thing everybody said is we need cooperation, we need openness. And I say, oh, I was there at the meeting, I said, I have a solution for you guys. And that's SOGNO offer then in this context of openness and not monolithic, an open architecture where everybody can bring services. The idea is that we want to, first of all, standardize how service plug in into the bus. Then different people may have different implementation of services. Of course, we want to have an open source reference implementation of all the services, and people may decide to go for using those, or people may offer services in the same competition with the open source one, because maybe they have a special version. I give you an example of that and why the openness here is really critical. We offer a service of state estimation, and it's a classical algorithm based on the classical algorithm, typical way to approach state estimation of power grid. But also know very well a startup company from my university that offers state estimation based on AI. Yeah, the best thing for them is to plug in this platform and substitute our open source version, and that will be their commercial point. And that opens up another reason for the SOGNO platform. It's really hard today, that's what we learned in that, working with that startup, to bring innovation because of the monolithic solutions. If I develop a new algorithm for state estimation, either I convince 2 or 3 companies that are selling this big platform, or my innovation is gone. In a monolithic solution, everybody can come and bring this innovation in. And actually, the idea is this kind of approach of SOGNO can create an open ecosystem where people can compete and push innovation much faster than what we are doing right now. And I think this is one of the key value. So the community is not about only developing the platform itself, but to make the platform like an ecosystem where innovation startup can come and make the grid in a better way, faster than what we are doing today. That's why SOGNO is open, scalable, and that's to meet the change requirement. But as I said, key point is to be based on international data standard, and common information model is the key element of that process. Some technical data about it. The data bus, so the message broker, is available in 2 versions. The first one we released in the original EU project is based on MQTT. But later, again, driven by the community and request, we also implemented the Kafka version. And new services are constantly under development. Those are quite stable, I would say. We have a state estimation being the first one, fault location system recovery, voltage control, and also recently PMU data management. But other services are in a prototypical stand and are available as well. The other point that we have been working on from the beginning is an interface to existing SCADA systems. And again, using standard protocol so that SOGNO can be integrated in existing system without changing the day-to-day operation. That's, I will have more about it because that's what we learned in the second project called Platone, where we started working with Areti, which is the co-partner in this presentation. They said, we have a SCADA system, we have an automation architecture, we have something. And of course, every distribution system operator has already something. And they have operator trained to work with that. It would be really hard to come and say, hey, throw everything away, here comes SOGNO. We realized immediately that this would not work. On the other hand, for this experience with Areti, it was really beautiful to keep their everyday business running, having a channel communication to SOGNO, and be SOGNO the core of innovation. And their vision in the long time of Areti is the following. In time, they will migrate everything to SOGNO and be fully based on the architecture. But it may take time, and there is no rush, because some services are pretty good, and they're in the old monolithic system working quite well. Why should they change that quickly, and I totally agree with that strategy. Also, we have agnostic interface for market, and so that SOGNO is automatically ready for flexibility market at distribution level. That's a key topic in European Union right now. And the other point is we have been adding the capability to talk using data space connector, in particular using one type of those, which is the OneNet connector, which I mentioned again in the previous meeting, is something again developed in European project, and now is also a LFE project, is in doing the onboarding process. And the OneNet connector is a first example of a data space connector, and that has been specifically developed for energy application, for energy utility. It has been tested with several TSO and DSO across Europe in real field tests. So that means that when I look at SOGNO, I can see that as a, what I call here the SOGNO service layer, where you put new services, innovations, but at the same time you have a lot of connections that make our platform like the core around which your system may evolve. Going in the direction of legacy SCADA, this point of not changing the everyday, opening up to data space, which is the next big thing. The European Commission launched now the first Digital Euro project for the implementation of a common European energy data space. The project has been selected and is going through the grant agreement. So data spaces are coming in the energy sector in Europe, and the standards are in definition right now, and SOGNO is ready for it. Of course, you want some sort of man-machine interface. Then you link to flexibility market, and then on the bottom, you talk to your field through a data broker that can be Kafka or MQTT. As I mentioned, this was also the result after the SOGNO project of this other project, Platone, which we developed with this set of partners. Here I like to mention, of course, Areti, because there with this cooperation, that's what they learn in the field, the value. What I like about this experience here is that when we started the project, it was not even in our project description that we were going to do this. But when we realized how complex it was to bring the field test to reality, they say, we need an alternative. We cannot do it the old way. And we told them, well, in the drawer, we have this project. It's called SOGNO. Maybe you want to try it. They tried it, and they say, that's the way. And so this project has been for us critical. Also, we built a lot of experience, also positive with a grid operator in Germany called Avacon. I will have a little bit more about it. They're active in the north of Germany. It's one of the biggest grid operators in Germany. And also we did with Hedno in Greece. Hedno is the unique distribution system operator in Greece. And in this project, they did some experience about it. And that's where we had exactly that's what we learned in the Platone from the SOGNO perspective is the value of those interfaces. So the previous project was about the platform. Platone was how you place SOGNO into a bigger ecosystem, so that is a solution then utility may decide to adopt. In particular, and that's fitting very well to Rome, we also expanded the connection to the data bus with the possibility of a blockchain interface with the purpose to create trust mechanism for the data exchange between customers and the utility. That's in Rome implemented with a custom solution of blockchain developed by a startup. And again, thanks to the modularity, this is something we could add to the system, and it works. And now that brought us to the real step that this project took, which is the city of Rome had to go through the process of implementing flexibility in the city, and they learned first in the Platone project, and then they say what we learned there is the way. So then when they launched this project, which is the commercial implementation of flexibility in the city of Rome, they said at the core we need the Sogno platform to orchestrate all the interfaces I showed you in my previous slide. But let me give you an idea of the challenge that the city of Rome is facing and why are they going this way. In a nutshell, they have been looking at how the load will grow in the next 10 to 20 years. And basically, they are coming to the conclusion that the grid they have will not make it. So of course, as traditional distribution system operator, they thought we just apply for grid expansion. And they found two major roadblocks. One is money. The investment that was needed was, for them, simply not affordable. And the cost was huge, and then economically didn't make sense. There is another aspect which is more specific of the situation of Rome, which is at the border of a joke, but is a reality. Try to dig in the city of Rome. What happens is you will find some Roman ruin, the ministry will come, will stop your construction for the next 10 years, and the customer will be without electricity. And among the customers, there is also the Pope, and you don't want to upset the Pope. And so for them, construction was also a challenge. They say, yeah, we can change a transformer, that's okay. Putting copper in the ground, please, no. It's too expensive because they have to anticipate wasting of time and because the place is peculiar. It's quite unique in the world. Nevertheless, there is a growth in the load they anticipate, and the only option alternative is here shown is flexibility. Only through flexibility they figure that the current infrastructure could be able to support a growth that is connected to main factors. Immobility, first of all, and air conditioning. And when I grew up in Italy, I'm originally from Italy, when I grew up, nobody had air conditioning in Italy. Yeah, it was a warm country, but warm. Now it's hot. It's unbearably hot. I mean, if you go to Italy, you understand climate change. Because cities like Milano, where I grew up, nobody had air conditioning. Now nobody can think to go through summer without air conditioning. This is the perfect example to understand how the climate change is happening. It's a reality. It's in the everyday life. And when they look, Rome is a little bit more south, it's even worse. And they don't have a way to accommodate electrification and at the same time climate change. And so that was major motivation. They study basically the expenditure, comparing the expenditure of a market of flexibility with the expenditure of grid reinforcement. They did a serious study of comparison, and they worked together with the local university, and they found the right middle ground. Because the growth is so much that the current possibility of flexibility will not do the 100%. So what it means is also digitalization is not solving every problem, and we were discussing, but is making the problem solvable, which is a different way of seeing. And which means they will have to invest every year, but we have to invest a reasonable amount and use for the rest the flexibility and creating the flexibility market that will make this possible. And that's what they are doing, and that's the projection on how this is going to grow. So right now they are the first implementer in 2023 of market that is dealing with 13 gigawatt hour and then going up in a very rapid way. And that's basically the deployment of the SOGNO platform. So the more they go on, the more people will be equipped with equipment that allows every single customer to become flexible and talk to the platform, and then participate to the flexibility market. What is really relevant is that this was not only a problem of Rome. As I mentioned, in Italy is everywhere, this issue of local flexibility because of dramatic growth of the load for the same two factors, basically everywhere. City of Milano is experiencing every summer a sequence of blackout because of excessive load. When I grew up, never had a blackout. And so all those utilities are facing, and in August last year, the Italian regulator said, we request now to start experimentation, and what is in the document describing the way to implement, they explicitly say the only architecture we are available, the only one we can suggest is the one that was used in the Platone project, so based on the SOGNO platform. So as a result, the experience of Rome is now being transitioned to other cities in Italy. They are in the way of experimenting local flexibility market because they're all facing a similar challenge. And basically the regulator, and that's a very important point for the conference where we are, when the regulator has to give a solution, they cannot say go to company A and buy that product. But they can tell there is an open source solution that solves the problem. That's one role, I think, very interesting that open source can play, facilitate regulators in writing conditions because they can be market independent while giving a concrete solution. So in that case, unfortunately the document in Italian, that's why I didn't put it on the screen, and they had to say, you want to try? We have a solution for you. Just read the deliverable of that European project that gives you a solution which is fully open source, so we are not violating any commercial condition. At the same time, and that goes again to the scope of this conference and the experience, okay, the city of Rome and Areti reached this conclusion, how do they do it? And I would say here is interesting because to make this happen, they have to do two things in parallel. They are creating internally in the company an open source office, and there are people that are in charge of developing the use cases and the implementation for the SOGNO platform, have been involved in the LFE, and so Areti joined the LFE and is participating to the meeting of the SOGNO project. And that's a change of culture in the company, which has also the benefit that now they are driving the evolution of their own platform. While before they were just going out and buying the platform, now they drive how the platform will be. But at the same time, they are not an IT company, so they had a request for projects out. They found commercial partners. So that means that currently there is a couple of companies that are working for them, making money out of the SOGNO project. So there was the discussion 20 times, can you make money out of open source? Yes, because, for example, DSOs that want to go in this direction, they will be actively involved in the process, but they know they are not IT experts. They won't take the risk to bring the thing all the way. And that's where companies can come and say, I understand the project, I understand the platform, I understand the IT part, I can be your partner. And that's how it's working around Rome. So it's the utility saying this is the service I need, overlooking the process, research project contributing and bringing new services, and then system integrator that makes sure this run properly and continuously. That way, that's the ARERA decision. This is the Italian regulator, and they use as reference that have been able to trigger them to move from being a research project to a project acknowledged by the Italian regulator, and allow them then to see that RomeFlex as the way to enable the local flexibility and the local market. Interesting also that, that's why I say market agnostic interface. Areti is also experimenting at the same time the interface to the TSO. So they are also have the possibility, and that I think is a very key element for the future. On one hand, they can use the flexibility they identify locally for their grid congestion, but they can also support the TSO, and so Terna in this case, that also is establishing a market of flexibility at the transmission level. So we see the complete communication within the whole value chain from users, DSO, and TSO in a very broad definition of flexibility. Here you see a vision of the full system in place in Rome. You see here they agnostically call it DSO technical platform. This is SOGNO, basically. And around that, they have a different set of players. They have an interface to the market platform, again based on blockchain that comes again from the Platone, the market platform. And as you see there, the possibility for the market platform to talk also to TSO and balancing service partner. On the other hand, on the customer side, as I had in my other diagram, you see the blockchain access layer, which allows them to exchange data with local energy management systems and making sure that the link between customers and the DSO is built on security and trust in the proper way. And so that's why they can now implement local flexibility markets in the real scale, having a concept of forward market and spot market, so that the two different level of flexibility in which anyway the DSO is the key partner. And I think here there is a vision behind which is also relevant. Now, of course, Areti supports 100%, that the DSO is somehow being the center of everything, being the one directly linked to the customers. So that requests of flexibility and everything don't have to go directly from customer to transmission system operation, but you have the DSO in the middle as aggregator of information and also coordination of services to make the best link for local versus system level request. This doesn't exclude, and actually is possible, to have also commercial aggregators that are between customers and DSO. Actually, in their case, they have Acea Energia, which is part of the same group, which is one of the customers of the platform, which aggregates local resources in Rome. It's one of the services that the local utility gives to the citizens, so you can also be involved as an aggregator, and as a customer you can join through the Acea system. Yeah, here a little bit more details of product specifications, but also in the interest of time, quick reference to the follow-up. So the success with Rome that we have been a lot reporting allow us to have more opportunities. One is happening in the framework of this called Copernicus project. Copernicus project is one of the biggest initiatives of the German government for the modernization of the electrical infrastructure. As you can see, everybody in Germany is involved, basically, from both from industry like Siemens, PSI, MR, a lot of research entity, and a lot of the grid operators. So you can see Abacon, you can see Tenet, some of the Stadtwerke, E.ON, and Westnetz, and so on. In this case, we are working together with Abacon as a follow-up of what we have done in Platone. And they are focusing on small town. So here where Platone was linking this concept to concept of local energy community. So we're dealing with a small town which has some local resources, and then in the project there was a local battery storage that was installed at the level of the interconnection between low voltage and medium voltage that increased the flexibility of the community. And then the vision of Avacon is to build a modular solution fully based on SOGNO, in which we have different local communities dealing with one of the secondary substations, which you run one instance of the SOGNO platform to optimize flexibility locally. And these are called local energy management systems, LEMS. And then a second instance of the platform, more at the level of the control room, that is called regional energy management system. And this way, building a two-layer between low voltage and medium voltage and creating a distributed intelligence solution. And so what we have here is that the SOGNO platform is not only running in the control room, but it's also in the substation. So we are, in this project, making sure that we can run on a very light platform, the SOGNO solution, so that you can build these two layers of data flow and allow a completely distributed solution. We are already developing this with the idea in the demo here is not that small, because we will have 4 different local energy management systems coordinated by a regional, and each of those will have, so it means we'll have 5 implementation of the platform running, 4 locally and 1 central for the regional. The regional one build on the experience of Platone, because already Avacon developed their local flexibility management using the SOGNO platform, and now they want to expand also to the low voltage part. And in conclusion, another German initiative, this case branded more as Fraunhofer, considering that everybody agree on this openness, modularity, and everything, we decided to join forces with another good and strong research center in Germany, which is Office, and propose the German government the development of the project to speed up this process and have even more services, and having in mind specifically the regulation of Germany, so that every service can be 100% compatible with the local regulations. We call this project Open Energy Twin, but is basically the idea to start from SOGNO and expanding also the link to things like data space, and developing an holistic solution that we will offer as open source to German grid operator in the future. And of course, we as Fraunhofer, we are not going to commercialize anything of that. This is the idea, to make this, again, open source project, advise, support, but then this, we believe, can activate an ecosystems of business that will work around and in a commercial way support. In particular, this we think makes sense for Germany, because apart from the eon of the situation, we have hundreds of small grid operators that are struggling through the digitalization, and then offering a way that can be modular and they can gradually enter, and in which somebody can help and they can share across the different small DSO the experience. It's a key element in Germany, because we have such a spread market of distribution system operator that we need to think more of those. Not that I don't want to look at the big one, but the big one have their own internal strategy. They can be involved, but they have the strength to work. There is a huge challenge in bringing the small one into this type of evolution. With that, I stop so that we have some time for questions. Thank you for your attention. I see your...
Also, with regard to your earlier question of flipping the business model, that more and more prosumers and locally people start to produce and want to shift their loads, etc.
Well, somehow we are trying here to build a local LEMS that will be given to a local community. And here we are talking about this. Twistringen is a very small town, and it is actually as a single community. So this somehow going this direction. One of the key problems going down to the final assets is interoperability right now. We had a little bit of discussion in the previous presentation. In that respect, what we are doing, we are developing in other projects open source implementation of IEEE 2030.5, which in US, particularly in California, has been identified as the protocol to talk to local distributed energy resources and make them flexible. So this is one direction we are taking. Of course, we cannot, avoid people to build closed solutions. But the best way is to build alternatives that are open and then interoperable, and that people will go for them.
I think this is a question how to integrate, let's say, your own solution with some external systems, right? So it's more like business-to-business communication or business-to-consumer communication. But from a compatibility point of view, I think what is maybe hindering some operators is how do I get the software that you're developing, how do I get it integrated to my company, to my system? And I mean, I'm doing consulting in OT now for 10 years or so, and I've never seen an IT architecture inside a grid operator that looks the same. And all look different, all are different. So how can we make maybe also sure that maybe research and development is also going to a direction where we have standards also for the integration of the different tools that we have in LF Energy, but maybe also commercial tools. How can we do that? Do you have some maybe idea? Or
well, in LF Energy we work on this, so we are trying to. We have efforts in creating, that's why we create this special interest group, because the idea is really to develop this cross-project cooperation, or if you like, / interoperability. That partly is there automatically because we're all using open and recognized standard, but not necessary. So that's probably where with LFE can make a difference. So there is a special interest group on the substation, for example. And there will be one more on the grid operation, where SOGNO will be involved, and there is one on the e-mobility part, which...
And there's a new one on the grid modeling.
Yes, and also in grid modeling.
Standard.
Yeah.
Grid model without the other.
Yeah, that's correct. But yeah, the special interest group have exactly in mind is to create more an ecosystem of projects, not separate projects. So the project have been evolving enough. So LFE is quite young at the end. And now we had to create our group of projects, the good one, they are emerging. Now we are clustering them and creating more, if you like, an architecture out of it. Well, this one in Rome is commercial. RomeFlex is commercial.
Basically, your main focus is municipalities. So how's the money flowing in using SOGNO and RomeFlex?
In RomeFlex, from the point of view of software implementation, there is the areti selected a system integrator that is paid by areti to implement and run the SOGNO project for them.
So the DSO pays...
A system integrator, yes. I think there is talking about business, as I say, for example, in a country like Germany, there is a possibility for companies to emerge that will do exactly this type of work, taking those software like SOGNO and help small operator to implement the digitalization. And they have to advise, support, run. It's really, they don't have the manpower internally, then they have to ask outside support for that. This is clear. I mean, I talked to some of those grid operators, I talk to them and say, can we have a discussion with your IT department? And the person say, it's me. And so that's it. Then you cannot imagine to do something like this. If it's one person that may be also in charge of installing the software, the PC, of the colleagues. I mean, because this is the level of digitalization in the small one. But on the other hand, they cannot even afford to go and buy one of the gigantic monolithic solutions. So that's why this combination of modular, open source, together with companies that advise, integrate, and support them, is a viable economic model to digitalize small DSOs. Oh, you know very well what I'm talking about.
My ask is, what role can we play? Maybe help productize parts of it to emerge companies that we're able to ship and support. We won't be productizing, of course, vertical solutions, but we have tools and procedures to productize open source software. So I think that this may be something where we can
Definitely.
and help companies to productize it, to be able to make it stable.
Right, definitely. I think so. Like in the, yeah, you could be the one helping the city of Rome. I mean, it's a company that has similar expertise that is doing right down for them. Then they have another, I mean, I think I can say that. Then is Google providing the infrastructure itself, but between Google providing the infrastructure and them, there is a company in the middle that is exactly doing what you're saying.
Yeah, maybe also related to some previous questions. I was wondering, like, how active is the project, and who is making the most contributions? I can imagine that maybe initially it was developed at university partners with students and PhDs and whatever, and right now it's probably picked up by system integrators as well. Like, how is it all going? Is it like, are there more contributions made by system integrators, or is it still mainly from academia?
I would say probably if I compare, we are still the one giving more contribution, but there are different now working, including Google, because they adapted some of the service to be 100% okay for the Google Cloud, for example. So this is one activity. So they branch out a version that runs specifically on Google Cloud. There are other companies that are cooperating with us, like PSI is looking into this. We had other companies that also, I don't remember the list. I would say if I look at the number of commit, probably RWTH is still winning, and maybe Fraunhofer is second, but we have a growing community, and of course we're welcome to have more. We are still young, because having one commercial implementation still is not a gigantic ecosystem.
Is the current commercial implementation in Europe, right? Is that still close to the open source project, or is it really?
No, it's very much closed.
Okay.
That's why Areti is part of LFE. For them was critical, and also their partners are part of LFE. So all the companies involved in the Rome experiment are in LFE. Mm-hmm.
Currently on the application side of the whole architecture, there are many distribution networks in particular that they cannot still export SIMs and correctly CPS files for all the equipment. So is there an alternative?
For the moment, no. What we are actually vice versa thinking is how to help people to quickly get into SIM. So, I mean, SIM is anyway also the standard transmission. If we need to build data communication between DSO and TSO, there is no alternative. So the one net connector is fully SIM. So it doesn't make sense to start something else. It's more about educating and providing tools to help to, yeah, basically you're right. We always talk about digitalization, but there is in English another word, if I'm not wrong, which is digitization, which is really taking paper mess into structured data, or messy data into, and that's not a small effort. When it comes to DSO, there is In many cases, they have no idea of their infrastructure. So they are not only don't have the description, but they don't even know how to get it. So that's a massive activity. But we need to do it, and there is no escape. It's also time for lunch. So we'll say thank you for the question and nice discussion, and enjoy the rest of the day and the lunch in particular.